Hi, I just want to illustrate that it is possible to bind a Generation 1 DX7 transmitter to the Horizon Hobby X-Vert. So there are a couple of tricks that you have to use to get this to work, and it's probably not the safest setup. So do this at your own risk. Not even guaranteeing this will work for you. But essentially what the issue is with this transmitter primarily is the 3-position switch that's available is sort of assigned to the wrong channel because we want that to control the flight mode. And of course the stock controller that comes with this thing it contains a momentary switch, which we don't have on this. So between that and just sort of the limitations of what you can assign to the different switches on this controller, it's a little bit challenging to get it set up to work. So I just thought I would show what I was able to do, what worked for me. So let's just sort of start with the model setup. So I have my setup here. Let me turn on a light, it may help this LCD. Okay, so let's just kind of go through the basics. Set it up as an airplane, and by the way, I have the Heli specific model of the DX7. I'm not really sure what the differences are and how much that will affect your setup, but hopefully it's the same. Trainers, Inhibited, throttle recovery. I actually need to look at my manual to see exactly what this is responsible for. I was thinking it might have something to do with assigning a throttle cut, but that's not what that is, I don't think, on this. So I don't know that you need to fool with that. You can probably leave that inhibited. Okay, so what I've done here is I've assigned auxiliary 2 to the 3-position switch. And I've turned off the trim. We don't really need to trim that. And then I've got the flaps assigned to the rocker. So we still need the flap channel because that's what controls the throttle cutoff. That's mapped to the same channel as auxiliary 1, which I think is what it's looking for there. Anyway, so I don't want flaps routed to the 3-position switch because what I want is the gear channel to receive the output of this 3-position switch. Well, you can't do that directly, so instead what I do is this auxiliary 2 channel is unused. I send the switch to that, and then I just use a mixing setting to mix from auxiliary 2 to gear. So you'll see that when I go into the model. All this stuff is off. I don't know that dual rate matters too much. I messed around in there to see if maybe it affected what I could do with the switches. It doesn't seem to, so you can do whatever you want to there. But that's what I have. Okay, so let's go into the model. So first of all, let me just sort of show you the results of what is happening when I move my controls. So you can see the auxiliary 2 channel and the gear channel are moving together. And so that's what's going to control your flight mode. So the bottom position is the vertical flight mode, and then that is the stabilization mode, and then that will be, uppermost position will be the acro mode. So I'll show you that mapping in a minute. And then this other part is a little bit janky, I will fully admit, but at least I don't have to buy a new transmitter. I just have the flaps sort of mixed with the throttle channel, and then I have the switch assigned.
Motor arming!
Switch assigned here. So that's supposed to be a momentary switch. So what you're going to want to do, you can see the amount of travel that causes to happen. Now, unfortunately, this is not going to function properly in flight.
Unless the throttle is all the way back.
Because when you do mixes, it basically mixes the output of the stick position versus any sort of prior mix that's involved. So I messed around with Heli mode trying to get a throttle curve set up for the pitch so that it would serve as my 3-position switch here. But then I needed to mix that to, the pitch was the wrong channel, and I wanted to mix that to the gear channel. Well, you can't do that because what it ends up mixing to the gear channel is your throttle position. So a little bit of a diversion there, but that's kind of gets at what I'm talking about, I guess. So anywho, let me show you what I mean. So What this is supposed to be is like the momentary switch on the native controller. So you press that for a second, and that's as though you push the channel to arm the motors. Or you push the button to arm the motors. So you don't want to leave that turned on, or it kind of flakes out, and it'll sort of toggle between on and off. So do that until the motor's cut on, and turn it back off. But let me show you what I mean about it not working in flight properly, and that's why I say it's not the safest setup in the world. You can see that that throttle channel is still linked to the flaps, so you really want that to be a digital on-off signal, and I just can't achieve that with the limitations of this radio. At least I couldn't figure out a way. Maybe someone else could mess around a little more and come up with a better setup, but this at least functions. Okay, so let's go into how all this was set up. So, messing with the flat mix. Okay, so you can just see that I have auxiliary 2 routed to the gear, and at both directions it's positive 100%, and then that's always on. So the switch position on means that mapping always occurs regardless of what any positions of the switches are. And then the offset of 100 is just what I needed to choose to get the actual travel to go from full stop, mid, full stop in the other direction. It just took that offset to achieve that. Okay, and here's my throttle to flat mix to achieve the momentary switch position I mentioned. And then I haven't looked at my manual, and it's been years since I've bought this thing, and I've actually taken a hiatus from flying and just getting back into it. So I'm not even exactly sure what switch mix means, but it seems to work with my throttle cut here. So it had no adverse effects on the other channel, so I'm going with that. And no other mixes. So it's not all that complicated. It just took a little bit of fiddling to sort of figure out what this receiver wanted to see as far as output from my transmitter. So I will stop recording now and sort of demonstrate that it works. I haven't actually tested the other flight modes in flight because I just got this thing, but I do get the proper lights and reaction from the bird on the ground, so I'm 95% certain that will work for you. So let's go to hover. Okay, I'm still experimenting with what works best for the flap channel, but it appears, as far as I can tell, you want it to be on the right side in the normal position, and then you want pressing the momentary switch to send it to the left. So that's kind of one of the nice things about having the flap set up the way I do now, is that it's allowed me to sort of experiment with what the thing needs to see to work. You can probably set that so that the initial position is all the way to the right, and then have the switch map it to the far left instead of center if you want. But for now, for me, this seems to work. And just watch out with the throttle trim. I set it all the way back, and that seemed to, I don't know, seemed to initialize, but then caused an issue with the actual throttle cut working. So anyways, just plug it in. Yep, definitely worked. Okay. I have some extra length on the battery leads here that makes it hard to close that. Alright, so now you can see that it initialized. Everything's working. And if I pretend this is a momentary switch or a button. Alright, now it's on. So what you couldn't see because my stick was off camera there, I tried to use the cutoff, and because my throttle wasn't all the way back, it didn't work because, again, that throttle channel is being mixed with the gear channel.
Flap channel!
And so in order for it to reach the appropriate range to trigger that receiver to cut the engines, you need to have it all the way back. Alright, so anyways, not the smoothest setup, but it is functional, and you know, you can make do with it if you're in a pinch and don't want to buy a new radio. And shame on Horizon for not supporting early adopters
Unless they want to sponsor me, then I love them.
in their new designs.